Human-Readable, and tonight I'll be presenting the neural programming language. There is an invisible elephant in the world today, and whether we see it or not, or feel it or not, we recognize it as silos. Just a couple of hours ago today, we had a brainstorming session in our IT team about how our communications tools were so divided. Some of us were using chat, some email, some SMS, and so on. The fact is, you have silos, you have inconsistencies, you have redundancies, and you have problems, lots of them. Fortunately, it's not impossible to recognize silos, and that is where you have redundancies, you have silos. Counterintuitively, we have silos even in relational databases. In fact, columns, rows, and even tables can behave like silos. Since half a century ago, it has been acknowledged that unavoidable redundancies exist in relational databases. For example, at the schema level, we can observe redundancies in the column definitions. As we can see, we have creation timestamp and last modification timestamp repeatedly defined in two tables. At the data level, in the same individual rows, but in different columns. In the same column, but in different rows. In different rows, in different tables. This got me thinking, how do we humans do it? How can we form virtually unlimited types of memories, then gradually add to these memories without any difficulties? These questions led me to my exploration of key concepts in neuroscience, philosophy, and linguistics, which by their integration led to the development of the neural universal language, whose basic mechanisms, namely primitive elements, means of combination, and means of abstraction, are taken from computer science. Then from neuroscience, it uses neurons and axon terminals as its primitive elements. It then uses neural networks, grandmother cells, and reflex arcs as its means of combination. And finally, from philosophy and linguistics, it uses definitions, arguments, minimalist grammar, and dependency grammar as further means of combination. Using neural, we developed two software components, namely the neuralizer and the spiker, which respectively mimic the human cognitive functions of storage and processing, both of which are deeply inspired by how our brains work. To describe how the first component for storage works, the neuralizer serializes the message instance and its content property in the code at the bottom into a network of grandmother cells that the neuralizer recursively merges primitive and compound elements, including functions such as case, head unit, and direct object, with the verbs has and instantiates the preposition of and the expression hello world until it converges into a grandmother cell that expresses with an even higher fidelity the same expression that is represented by the code at the bottom and the dependency tree at the top. Using the neuralizer component, we discovered a highly efficient approach to store duplicateless data. In the results shown, at the schema level, two tables are able to refer to the same columns. At the data level, two columns in the same row are able to refer to the same singular value. Different rows with the same column are able to refer to the same value. Then lastly, different rows from different columns of different tables are able to refer to the same value. So instead of rows, tables, columns, fields, you have neural networks stored in your database. In the second component for processing, the spiker uses a spiking neural network, which is a third generation neural network, that simulates action potentials that travel through reflex arcs. On this slide, simulating the stimulus at the site of Zach, the same time a reaction is anticipated, the interneuron to the left labeled react when funny actor is seen is fully excited, as indicated by the 4 green arrows around it, thereby spiking the response neuron labeled increased volume at the top. On the other hand, the interneuron labeled react when sexy actor is seen to the right is not fully excited, since the input neuron sexy was not spiked. In this recording of our Hello Worm prototype, we are able to simulate a very small brain containing only 29 neurons for converting sensory input into behavior, enabling the simulation of a simplified worm, the C. elegans worm, that follows odor properties to eventually find its way to food, while enabling it to turn whenever it encounters walls. This prototype demonstrates efficient human-readable deterministic navigation capabilities without using any C-sharp conditions and switches, no if conditions, and while using only spiking neural networks. So what's really happening there is there's a brain with 29 neurons with 67 terminals, and that's all the code is. You don't need a data center for that. Now the question is, if we can use biomimicry to create a language to store and process data, then can all software be written in neurons and terminals? This is the question that is called the neural programming language. Thank you.
Big round of applause for Alma. Thank you so much.